Under the provision of the Democratic platform promising a jury trial in all cases of indirect contempt, a recalcitrant witness who refuses to obey a subpoena may insist on a jury trial before the courts can determine that he received the subpoena.
Rancor and bigotry, racial animosities, and intolerance are the deadly enemies of true democracy. There can be no friendly cooperation if they exist.
Freedom of the mind and the spirit has its practical aspects in everyday life. It includes the right of every man to live and work in peace, to earn and to save, and to enjoy the fruits of his labor, so long as their enjoyment does no harm to his neighbor.
These papers are not historical heirlooms. They are the living, organic law of the land. We've gone on putting them to work, and they have thus far worked well.
I don't believe that we can continue to travel the road to insolvency by piling up a national debt year after year in time of peace. There's always a day of reckoning, and I believe that we have to do that. Yeah. I believe that we can, and that we must.
A well-regulated militia being necessary for the defense of the state, the people's rights to bear arms. This has been the subject of one of the greatest pieces of fraud, I repeat the word fraud, on the American public by special interest groups that I have ever seen in my lifetime. Now just look at those words. There are only 3 lines to that amendment. A well-regulated militia.
Judging is a uniquely deliberative task. A judge hears from both sides of a dispute and renders a reasoned judgment based upon what he conceives to be the merits of the case before him. The restraints imposed on judges by the nature of the judicial process are subtler and often more difficult to adhere to than the restraints imposed on the political branches by the electoral process. But it is absolutely essential that judges do conform to these restraints.
You have to appreciate that the justices are engaged in the process of trying to help themselves decide the case correctly. So they're going to ask hard questions. They're going to ask questions that don't put your case in the best possible light, and you need to appreciate that. It's good to establish, and I think I didn't appreciate this as much as I should have, some dispassion. Yes, you want to have a certain level of zeal and commitment to your client's cause. The justices know that. But when they ask you a question about a difficult case, it's better to sometimes say, I appreciate that case doesn't support my side. I appreciate that causes us some difficulty.